good evening. This will be our last class before the new year. And as you see, after we wrap up today's lesson 22, that means we will only have 3 lessons left. You know Greek? Beginnings of Greek, at least. Glad you got a little chuckle out of that. All right, we'll start by going over the quiz because 3 of the translations are the same ones as we did for exercises. Number 1, for John was saying or speaking to him. And this is the content of what he's saying or speaking. It is not lawful for you to have her.
Okay.
Referring to Herod's daughter. No,
Herod's wife.
Herod's wife's daughter.
No. It's
Herod's.
not lawful for you to be married to your brother's wife. His wife, the wife
Yes.
is in prison.
Yes. Very nice correction. Herod's, yeah. Number 2, therefore, I, a prisoner in the Lord or of the Lord, exhort you to live worthy of the calling with which you were called.
What's parakalo?
What now?
What was parakalo?
Parakalo is from parakaleo. Parakaleo is I exhort.
Okay. I come.
Parakletos is the paraclete or the comforter, the exhorter. Parakaleo is the verb of that, to comfort or to exhort.
I say this to comfort.
Yeah, technically you have one of the words within the semantic range, but he's not trying to comfort them at this point. He's trying to...
On the first one, I have, for John had been saying is what the translation said,
Mhm.
but I had said was saying. Where is the, I thought it was imperfect.
It is imperfect. Had it been would be your pluperfect, I think. They're getting that from the context because John at this point is in prison, so it's referring to a time that happened in the past.
So I'm not wrong?
No, you're
I'm
not.
okay?
You are perfect.
Okay.
Not referring to the tense. Number 3, Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. All right, for parsing. Elegin is from Lego. It is a tense. Debbie already got it. Imperfect. Voice is active. Mood is indicative. Third person singular.
It doesn't have a gender, correct?
Correct. This is where things start to bleed together with, not indicative, but with finite verbs, infinitives, and your participles is knowing which one of those categories apply.
You translate that?
Translating it would be in context, John was saying, or simply he was saying.
Yeah, that again, as he was saying.
From Lego. Ekain is from,
It's to have.
good, it's from echo. And the tense, present, voice, active, mood, infinitive.
Okay, but it's infinitive.
Perfect.
But you said what else goes with it?
It's present, active, infinitive. Parakalo,
No gender.
no gender, no number, none of that.
Oh, okay.
Because it's infinitive. It's
Yeah.
not bound by person or number.
And it's to have.
To have. Paracalo is from parakaleo. It's one of those contract verbs we learned. And it's a present, active, indicative, first singular. Okay.
And it's translated.
It is translated I comfort, exhort. Peripatesi, rather. It's from peripateo, and it is an aorist, active infinitive. Notice that sigma there. All right, and then that it would be translated to live or to walk. I apologize if you put to walk in to, it can be to walk as well. Literally, it's to walk, but it signifies a manner of life. Vocabulary: day, it is necessary. Exestin, it is lawful. Mellow, I am about to. Prin, before. Hosta, so that. And then translation into Greek. Is it lawful to destroy the evil servant because he did not hear your voice?
Is evil kalos?
No, kalos would be good. Evil would be either, you could go two options, kakia or paniros.
Well, I had, mine's horrible,
Okay?
but it was Esestin,
Mm-hmm.
and then I couldn't remember destroy, so I couldn't do the infinitive of destroy.
Luo,
Okay.
and then lue, aim, to destroy.
And then I was gonna go, did you say Panera?
Panera,
Yeah,
paneros. So-
Doulos.
Yeah, yeah, you could do that. But the only thing is you've got to have it in the right case.
Okay.
Ha would be the nominative. So you could do it as ta, and you said dula.
Mm-hmm.
It would actually
Or I
have to
said Doulos, is what I had.
be, if you were to do it that way, you'd have to do lon, ton, paneron. But the other way would be to do it ton, paneron, ton, dulon. Okay, from there, because he did not hear your voice. Hati, Hautas, Oop, Akue, that's spelled wrong. Pain. Yeah, I was about to mess that up. This one's tricky. And I think it actually can be tame as well. Faux nace or faux name. Soup. Your verb kuo takes a genitive object. That's why it's that. All right, and I'll take care of that break for you. Have a break. Do you have any questions, though? No. Any questions linger on lesson 21?
The homework?
Yep.
Let's see. Let's see. Number 9, where it talked about, therefore I, the prisoner of the Lord, declare you all the while willingly of the calling which you have been called.
Mm-hmm.
I had were called, but my Bible had have been called. And I wasn't sure.
Yes, this would be happening. You have that theta eta there. They are past. No, this is not perfect though. This isn't a perfect verb. It's a
Yeah, I thought it was aorist passive.
You're right about that. And
So you were called.
you were called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Truck first.
And then in Luke 11:31, was there any way that we were supposed to know it was a she without knowing the earlier part of the verse? 'Cause
No.
I got, from the ends of the earth, he worked to hear the wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah. The only way you would know that is you would know the Old Testament to know that that is.
Referring to the Queen of Sheba.
Yes.
All right, so there wasn't a clue. on
No,
this
there was
there.
not. You didn't miss anything in translation. No, it's perfect.
And that was it.
Anybody else on lesson 21? So infinitives aren't tripping you up too much? Not too much?
Just need time.
Okay. All right, so we'll open up now. Same way we did 2 weeks ago. Still take a brief look at a passage. And this looks like a huge passage. So I'll go ahead and translate for you to begin with. Look, the reason I'm giving you this is mainly that chunk of Greek text there. It's taken from Matthew 4:23, 9:35, and 10 verse 1 and verse 7. So translated, it would be, and Jesus went around in all of Galilee, or in all Galilee, teaching in the synagogues, or in their synagogues rather, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing all the sickness and maladies and all the maladies in the people. That's the first passage. The second one is, and Jesus went around all the cities and all the villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing all maladies, sicknesses, and all maladies. Paragraph 3 there is,
So no sign of sickness?
what now?
No sign of sickness?
Paragraph 3 there is, and Ross Kaleo, he called, on calling the 12 his 12 disciples, he gave to them authority over the unclean spirits so that they might cast them out and heal every sickness and every malady. And going, preach, saying that the kingdom of heaven is near. So what do you notice about those three? They're taken from 3 different segments of Scripture.
Very similar.
They're very similar, right? So we've seen some of the early manuscripts. You don't have any verse divisions. You don't have paragraph divisions for the most part. It's just a big chunk of text. But authors have ways of communicating structure, right? This is one of the Matthew's ways of communicating structure. Jesus is going through, he's doing 3 particular activities. What are they?
Teaching in the
Teaching.
synagogues.
Okay.
Or teaching. Preaching.
Preaching and
Healing.
healing. Good. What do you notice about the third one?
It's more specific about what he's preaching.
Right, but in the third one, it's who's the one doing the action?
He gave the power to the
Disciples.
disciples.
He gave the power to disciples, right? But what is missing here? And you'll find this all in his text. This is from, so I give credit where credit is due. This was written by Scott McKnight. So the disciples are healing, given the power to heal and to preach.
Okay.
But teaching is not present there. There are 2 things that McKnight wants you to observe about this. One, the absence of teaching. It's not as if the disciples aren't given the power to teach, because later on in the book of Matthew, they are given the power to teach. As a matter of fact, at the conclusion They are told to go out making disciples, teaching, etc., etc. But at the moment, he argues that they have not heard the complete teaching of Jesus, and they are not quite prepared for that. But their role now is to preach the gospel and to heal. But the more important, and that's a little thing that I have highlighted there, is the fact that all of their ministry is derived from whom? Jesus. He's the one that has given them the power to teach, to heal, to preach. And the same is true today. We don't do it by our own power. We teach, we preach, we bring the good news by his power. We are merely extensions of the great mercy that he has shown us. We are to do all things in his power, not in our own. So, I will leave you with that. As we learn Greek, this arduous task, we constantly seek to be renewed by him. Any questions on that? So, chapter 22. This is going to be a really quick and easy chapter. Sometimes I say things are easy, and they're really not, but this one's pretty simple. We're not introducing new verbs. We're not introducing a new grammatical concept. Nothing here is new except for a couple of forms, and even those forms are derived from previous forms. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about interrogative pronouns. So what's an interrogative pronoun?
It's asking a question.
Asking a question, perfect. Who, what, where, when, why?
Why?
Who, what, where, when, and why? Yes. Why are we doing this? To learn better. Okay, so your interrogative pronouns are going to follow your third declension forms. They also have an accent. This is important. The way I remember it is, and really it's not because I just came up with this device right before class started, so in all honesty, Y is the accent here. So your forms there are tis, tenas, tini, tena, tenes, tenon, tissen, tenas. That's for your masculine and feminine. They share the same forms. Your neuter has a different form. Ti, and then the same as the masculine, tenas, tini, and then the same as the nominative, ti. In the plural, tena, same as the masculine, tenon, tisin, and then the same as the accusative, tena. So we still have our sasia, esonsias. These mean who, what, where, when, and why. I think it can mean why. Who, what, where, how, when. It does not say it can mean why.
So it's all one pronoun, but what gender it is defines its meaning?
No. Context defines its meaning. And yes, why can also be used. So for your first example there, tis lege tuta. Who says this? Ti esti tuta. What is this? The difference there, Susan, is because who is going to be referring to a person in English, and ti, in Greek as well, and ti is your neuter, so it's going to be referring to a what, or a, a non-person. You have a few examples there. Tis estin on the next page. Hey, meter mu, who is my mother? Tenas, hey, ekon, haute, whose image is this? Tini hamoyoso, tain geneon, tautain. To whom, because notice it's in the dative now, to whom shall I compare this generation?
We couldn't go and memorize a T meant what?
What now?
We couldn't memorize a T meant what?
No, because we're going to get to the indefinite pronoun, and it's not going to be an interrogative any longer.
They won't have an accent.
Correct. Exactly. You have a couple more examples there that you can review, but we also have our indefinite pronoun. No, is that definite or irrelevant? Yeah.
Will,
Still third declension. Just one second, I'll get right there. No accent. Yes.
will the placement in the sentence always come at the beginning of the phrase? Or is it one of those words that can show up anywhere and you have to put it in the front?
German.
It typically does occur at the beginning, but that is not to say that it won't always occur at the end.
It's not concrete, but it's the most common.
Yes. Yep. And here's a very important little note that he's got there that you should be aware of. Questions in Greek expecting an affirmative answer have "ou" with the indicative, while questions expecting a negative answer have "may" with the indicative. "Ou" with the indicative expects a positive answer. "May" with the indicative expects a negative answer. Indefinite pronouns. So here we had who, what, where, when, and why. This is someone, something, etc., or anyone, or certain. Same forms, completely alike, except for the accent. Next, we have relative pronouns. These are the ones you're related to.
Family Guy.
First and second declension. And they are simply your endings for this first and second declension. So we're on page 172 in the newer book. And it's the second and first declensions with a rough breathing mark. So we have has, hu, ho, han, hoi, hon, hois, hus, or hey, hace, hey, hain, hi, hon, heis, has, ha, hu, ho, ha, hon, hois, ha. And pay very close attention to that because it is different than your article, for instance. Particularly with hey. That is the, but hey with the accent is which, or that, or who, or whom. Well, it wouldn't be whom, because whom would be in the accusative. That would have to be hey.
First one is what?
He.
The first one is the,
Right, yeah.
a definite article, the, etc. The same with boy. That is your pronoun versus the relative, the definite article. Just that little accent.
And so that's a masculine?
This would be masculine plural nominative. This would be masculine plural nominative as well, but one of them is an article and the other one is, yep, good. So to give you an example of this, we have ha anthropos has, edeton, kurion estin apostolos. We had an example of this in the quiz and in the homework last week, we just didn't know what it was. So haste in that example was a relative pronoun. In this example here, it's the man, ha anthropos, has, who, ede, Saul, ton kurion estin, the Lord. Estin is apostolos, an apostle. So you see how we have a clause embedded in there. The first clause is ha anthropos estin apostolos. The man is an apostle. But has introduces a relative clause. The man, what about that man? The man who saw the Lord, comma, is an apostle. Relative pronouns function very much like English relative pronouns. It's just identifying them in Greek and translating them.
So if it was the men, it would be oi, and then oi again.
It'd be, in that instance, we would have the men, hoi, on, throw, hoi, and then it wouldn't be Aiden anymore, it would be Adon, because we changed it to plural. Okay. Good. Okay, so we've got those. Our next is an indefinite relative pronoun.
Hoi in this one. Oh, there it is, masculine nominative. Okay, I got it.
So now we have an indefinite relative pronoun. And that is still going to be our first and second declension endings. But we're also adding, actually I should put it the other way around. We put our indef pronoun plus our first or second declension. That's confusing. So take a look at the example he gives you there. We have oh no, I had it the right way to begin with. I'm sorry. First second plus your indefinite pronoun. I'm making it a little more complicated than it really needs to be. What you do is you add the two types of pronouns together, the relative pronoun and the indefinite pronoun. So you have has, tis, hey, tis, hati, hatinis, hitinis, hatina. And you don't have all of the different forms, you just have those.
And when you put the two together, how do you translate that? It's a who?
Yeah, who, I think that a lot of the times it gets over-translated. So I'll read the section for you just to make sure we're very precise on how. The indefinite relative pronoun is so named because it is a combination of the relative and the indefinite. Both forms experience inflection in the New Testament. The indefinite relative pronoun occurs almost exclusively in the nominative, singular, and plural. The indefinite relative pronoun is usually translated as who, but its meaning sometimes involves a qualitative idea. Who is of such a nature? A possible New Testament example of this is Romans 1:25. Who were of such a nature exchanged the truth of God in or for falsehood or for a lie. Normally, however, hostis is used without any significant difference in meaning from hos. So, very often the exact same thing. So it gives you statistics there. In a relative clause, hos is the rule, occurring 1,400 times about, and hostis occurs only 150.
So there, it shouldn't set off any bells when you see it.
Just know that that's what it is, and you translate it just like a relative. All right. Then we have reciprocal. Because I can't spell. Reciprocal pronoun. And we've sort of encountered this, not as a pronoun itself, but in terms of translating a middle voice. This is just another way of communicating a similar idea. So from allos, another or other or another is formed the reciprocal pronoun in the New Testament. The reciprocal pronoun occurs only in the following forms: allelon, allelois, and allelus. Of one another, to one another, and one another.
Have fun.
What now?
Have fun there.
Mm-hmm. It's just forms this week. It's, honestly, because what it all boils down to is when you look in your vocabulary, you have all of these forms to memorize this vocabulary, and just like the rest of your vocabulary, it gets declined. So we've hit 5 different forms. It seems a bit overwhelming, but it's just learning your vocabulary. You also have your reflexive pronouns. And we've sort of encountered the same idea in your middle voice as well. Himself, herself, etc. So that would be he-autu, he-auto, he-auton. For the third person, for the first person, it would be imautu, imauto, imauton. Same like me was the first person, I. Pretty much the same. With the third person, you have the sigma, se. This is for your pronoun, your regular one. So se autu, se auto, se auton. And then, yes?
This is no nominative, so what about myself?
Myself would be of myself, so imautu. It's not, you don't have a nominative form, but you do have a first person form. A first person form would be mine, second person would be you, and third person would be he, she, or it. And the reason you don't have a nominative form is because you can just use autos for that. Remember how we had that special use of autos where it would be intensive use or the reflexive use?
Okay, so Matthew 8:9, for I myself am a man under authority. Kaigar, ego, anthropos, Amy, hupo, exousian.
Yep, I already got you. So
Okay.
what you're getting there in that translation is ego, eimi, I myself. Instead of just saying I, it's using the pronoun on top of it for an intensive use.
Okay,
I myself.
okay.
So we've encountered a lot of different ways to do this by adding a pronoun that's not necessary because it's supplied by the verb, or by using autos in a place that is a special use, or by using the middle voice. This is just another way. And this is actually the dominant way of doing reflect. Is it the dominative? I think it is. I think it's the more common way of doing reflexive.
Well, how common is ego, Amy?
More common than you might think. But I can't say with definitiveness. And then the last form you've got there is your possessive pronoun. The namely, the way we have learned to do possessive is how? The genitive, right? So, a noun, doulos. So if I wanted to say his servant, I would say doulos autou, right? You can also do, or my servant, I might say doulos emu, or doulos mu. You can also use the nominative, or whatever form you're trying to signify. So I could say, well, here's your example, ha imos logos, my word, as opposed to ha logos mu. Logos mu would be one way, or ha imos logos, or even logos, and I think it's ha imos, yeah, imos. All right. We will do the following in the next 10 minutes. Go over the vocabulary and the first 4 exercises, maybe 5. Take a break and then we'll come back and we'll talk about lexical analysis. Alelo. One another. He autou. Himself or herself. Him autou. Myself. Imas. My or mine.
This again is for me.
Yep, that's a good way of remembering it. Hemeteros. Our. Idios. His or one's own.
The word idiot.
It may come from there,
Or is that
but
better?
even if it does come from there, it would not mean the same thing at all. Has, he, and ha. Who, which, that, or what. Hastis, hatis, hati. Who, whoever, what, or whatever. Se autou, yourself. Sas, say, san, your. Tis, tith. Who, which, what, why. Tis, ti. One, a certain one, someone, anyone. and humeteros, your. All right. Number 1.
Who are you?
Good. Su tis a. Who are you? And that would be an example where tis did not come first. Number 2. Kai estin, haute, heangalia, hein ake ka'am, apautu.
And this is the message that was preached. For you?
Go back. You've got almost all of it. Take a look at the word you translated after the pronoun. And this is the message which or that ake ka'amen.
Something like her.
Yes. You said preach to begin with.
I mean, akururusum, right?
What now?
Akurasumen. Or not.
So here we are. Ake ka'amen. What's it from?
Cool.
Akuo. Good. We haven't done this in a while, have we? What features do we find about it? Yeah. Reduplication of the kappa, right? So when we reduplicate the kappa, then we add the alpha in front of it, and then this lengthens. So we have reduplication equals. Perfect. Good. What else do we see? Amen ending, which is what sort of ending? It is a first plural. Good. Voice.
Active.
Active. Good. Perfect. Active. Indicative. Because we've got the first plural, which means that it can't be a participle and it cannot be an infinitive. We've got a person number ending. So now translate that. This was I here. This is
We were hearing not has
Heard.
No.
yeah, heard, but there's one word before that, a helping word. We
Have her?
have heard. Yes, perfect is have. So, which we have heard opt out to, which we have heard. Perfect. Good. So what John is doing here is he's establishing that this is something that has happened in the past, something that he was a witness to. These sorts of verbs in the beginning of 1 John, as we go on and start to actually get into 1 John, are kind of important, exegetically speaking, because he's combating Gnosticism. So he's saying, we have seen, we have heard, we have touched, we have heard the message from him, and that message which we have heard from him, we have delivered on to you. So
Can you start from the beginning? What is the...
and this,
Uh-huh.
aute, is the message which we have heard from him.
Is there any word for which?
Mhm. So if I were to diagram this for you, I don't know if that helps anybody. Hain would go underneath Angalia because it's further clarifying that message. What message? The message which we have heard from you. Those are two different clauses. The second one describes Angalia. All right, number 3. Mesu megzon a tu patras himon Abraham hastis apithanin.
You are not greater than our father Abraham, who apophanes.
Who died.
Who died, yep. Apophnesco. This is the second aorist of Apophnesco. And if it helps you, what is this word?
Death.
Death, right? Thon is very much associated with die or death, etc. So in apophnesco, it's the main verb, but it's when you get to the second aorist, it actually kind of reveals more so that root that the rest of the words are built off of, the thon. So
And what is ape?
it's just a compound. It doesn't do really much of anything in this instance. All right. Number 4. Koinonion ekamen met alelo.
And we have fellowship with one another.
Yeah, good. We have fellowship with one another. And then we've got time for number 5. Kai he koinonia de he metara meta tu patros kai meta tu huiou Jesu Christu.
Our fellowship is with the Father. And with
Stop.
the Son.
Stop. Somebody else. Stop. All right. Somebody that didn't hear him. Work through it.
Well, Kai is in.
Okay, good.
A is not who wished that because it doesn't have the accent over it.
Good. So it's just the.
And I don't remember what koinonia is.
Fellowship?
Fellowship. And the fellowship of the
Yeah, that word I don't know. No, with the Father, meta tu patros. Hemetera. Ahead is with
It's in the it's
our.
Our fellowship, and our fellowship is with the Father and with the Son, Jesus Christ.
What is dead coming
That is the and. Kai is being used here intensively, and even our fellowship, or also our fellowship, something along those lines. You have to look at the context. Hemitera is from hemeteros. It is our. All right, take a break.
BDAG.
So, we are going to work on lexical analysis today. So before we've talked about textual criticism, and it came to my attention that this particular resource was available. I just handed it out to you. It is an abbreviated form of Dr. Black's book on textual criticism. So if you want to have a look back through all of the material that we covered and maybe some material that we didn't cover in as much detail, it's here. So you got principles of external evidence, internal evidence, the different approaches to textual criticism that we covered, some examples, and different ways that errors arose in the text. We won't be talking about any of this today, but it's just to give you a bit of a reference for the future. That way you don't have to go out and buy the book. Lexical analysis. It's also called word studies or semantics. Essentially, it's the study of the meaning of words. Why do we need to do this sort of work for the New Testament?
That was obvious.
All right, well, let's be obvious. Why do we need
What does
to
the
do it?
word mean?
what does the word mean, right?
Yeah.
So we've got issues that arise. Greek period is a very, very long period. We need to know what a particular word means at a particular time. So words change their meaning over time, and we need to investigate the specific time period that we're in, how that word is being used in that time period, and in order to do that, we also investigate before how the word was used and how it has come to be used at the time. The reason we need to do this in a very studious sort of way is because all sorts of different fallacies creep into word studies. We've talked about some of these before, like the etymological fallacy or the root fallacy, which is where we say that a word really means this because it meant that at a specific time. A lot of the times it's meanings that once were but no longer are. Sometimes it's meanings that are now that were never then. So dunamis means power, but it means dynamite, the explosive power of God, because that's where we get the word dynamite from dunamis. We also have problems with the root fallacy where we start to build words up. We've talked about this a good deal. So an example would be butter and fly, which is a flying stick of butter. Entertaining to see, no doubt, but not there. It's not what we're talking about. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some of the different steps that we might go through in order to get a very sure understanding of how a specific word is being used. The first thing you would do would be to consult BDAG. Oh, no. You're going to have to give me 2 seconds. These were the ones I did not copy. All right, so BDAG. What we're going to do in order to begin our understanding of a word is consult BDAG. BDAG is Bauer, Danker, Arndt, and Gingrich. And you've got a handout there, but just to have it up there. What you want to do first when consulting BDAG is just to go through and look at the main definitions. And here we go. Here is an entry from BDAG. And this is all going to build towards something. I want you to do a word study over the break. You've got now until the 8th, I think it is, of January. So the word study that you will be doing is on the word parrhesia in 1 John 3:21. I'm going to prepare you by giving you all of the different resources you would need without having to go and check out those resources or buy them. All right, so what you want to do is you want to look at BDAG and you want to take a look at all of the main different definitions. So for parrhesia, what we see there is those things in bold. A use of speech that conceals nothing and passes over nothing. Outspokenness, frankness, plainness is the first use. The second is openness to the public. The third use is a state of boldness and confidence, courage, confidence, boldness, and fearlessness. So when we're investigating a word, we'll start there. After we get that, and you might want to write down or have accessible to you, write down those main definitions. The second step is to use a concordance. Many of you are probably familiar with Strong's. I personally prefer the Englishman's Concordance. There's one back there in this room. It looks like this. I personally actually prefer using my computer to do it for me. But if you don't have the software to do that, then I think that the English Manse is probably one of the better ones. Because as you see there, he gives you the word, Parasia, and he gives you all of the different references that it occurs in, and it's in the English as opposed to in the Greek. That way, we're not all quite to where we can sight read out of context, so this gives you an easier way to interact with. So with the concordance, we will investigate sightings. This can be pretty difficult for some words, right? Some words might be used several hundred times. Now, in instances where a word is used several hundred times, you might want to reconsider investigating that word, because it might not be as significant as you might have thought. There are possible exceptions to this. The dikaios word group, for instance, righteousness, is a heavily debated word group. That might be one that is used excessively that might still be of some use to you. But it is one with a high theological import, if that makes any sense. So what you want to do is you want to start with words that do have a high theological import, but ones that are not overly used, because their meaning might not be as readily apparent. So you want to investigate the sightings. For Parasia in particular, I believe there are 31 different instances in the New Testament. That's a little much, but since you got as much time as you do, in order to work on this, I'd ask that you look at each one of those. You don't necessarily have to look at them in the Greek. That would be a heavy task, but look at them in the Greek as much as you can. What you want to be doing as you are looking at these in their original context is taking note of anything that you find of significance. So, number 3 is to create a list. And on that list, you want to see those possible meanings. Plug these in. See where each one of them fits. Do they all fit? Is there some sort of modification that needs to be made? Has BDAG failed you in the sense that it hasn't provided the best syncs possible? Be careful at that point, because BDAG is built upon decades of lexicographical research. That's not to say that it can be wrong. It can't be wrong. But it is to say, make sure you explore and exhaust your possible meanings. Take note of contextual associations. For Parasia in particular, are there royal images present? What sort of factors are surrounding them? We need to be careful at this specific point, because a word is not defined by all of its contextual associations, right? If I were to say red bicycle, in that context I can continue to say red and bicycle and refer to the red bicycle. But not every time that I say red, or does anybody else in the language say red, does it refer to a bicycle. And not only is that the case, not only every time somebody says bicycle does it mean that it is red. It seems like a rather obvious statement to make, but the contextual associations that occur around a word does not comprise the definition of it. What it does is it helps to see how speakers use that word and in what contexts they use that word. And if they use that word in the same context repetitively, it might start to lend a specific flavor, a specific connotation to the word as opposed to a denotation, the dictionary definition of the word. So we want to take note about our contextual associations. And then we want to form tentative conclusions about the meaning of that word. Now, one thing that I want you to specifically take note of when you're doing this is we need to work inside the context, or at least we need to understand the context of different authors, or the role of different authors and how they use specific words. So here, if you take a look at your concordance, you've got 4 different uses in 1 John. What is going to be of most significance to our understanding of 3:21 specifically are the occurrences of parrhesia in 1 John, because that is a specific letter. But then of next significance for understanding parrhesia, what would be the case?
John's epistles in general.
John's epistles in general. There don't appear to be any other instances here, but one other piece. The book of John. This obviously is contingent upon scholarship, your understanding of who wrote the epistles of John, who wrote the book of John, and who wrote Revelation. So far as I'm concerned, John wrote all of those: Revelation, the epistles, and the gospel. So those would be of the most relevant information. And then we work our way out. We work ourselves into circles. We first start with the epistle that it's in. We go to the epistles. We go to the gospel. We go to Revelation. Essentially, we work within the corpus of an author. And then we continue to broaden our search out to the rest of the New Testament. All right? There are my notes. Then what we want to do is reread BDAG. Why would you want to do that?
Well, you know more than you started.
Well, yeah, you know more than what you started with. And also, when we're going to get done talking about this, you're going to say, why didn't I just jump to reading BDAG or one of the theological works? You can do that. But it's sort of cheating. What we want to do is we want to do our own work. That's why we're doing Greek to begin with. We don't want to rely upon the work of others. BDAG is the work of others. It is a very reliable work, but it is still the work of others. Our theological word books, they're doing the same thing that you're doing. But what we want to do is we want to come with our own conclusions, tentative though they may be, and continue to work in community with the people that have done it before us. So what I mean by that is we start here for a basis, we work our way through the concordance, we work our way through a list, then we go back and say, hey, did I miss anything in BDAG? And you see that based upon those 3 definitions, there's a lot of information here. And some of that information is cited throughout early Christian literature, and it also provides slight nuances. So you'll see under 1 in italics there, plainly or openly. In one specific piece of literature, the gods always speak the truth, but sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. You've got the Greek there, and often you have the translation. So you want to read through that. You want to see if there are any contextual factors that are present in other literature that might help you out.
Is that what Demosthenes and Euripides and
all of those other authors?
now, are they
Maccabees.
writing in Koine Greek, or are they writing in classical Greek? Is there any
Much
overlap?
of this, much of it, not all of it, but much of it is Koine Greek, not classical.
Is there any reliance on classical in textual more studies?
Not as much. You need to be careful, but
Yeah.
we will get that there. And this is not in your list, but it is something you need to be aware of as well. You should also be looking at if the word is particularly rare, or if you want more of a history of that word. So this would be diachronical, through history. What I just gave you is Liddell, Scott, and Jones. This is a dictionary that covers classical literature as well as Koine and Hellenistic period. So it might have specific nuances that are not present in Hellenistic, but you might want to know. not because that in any way says this is what the word means now. You get to see the evolution of the word, the way that it has been used. Sometimes that's very important because we have a very rare usage and we don't know how to define it without that in literature. And sometimes it's important because maybe on an off chance he's picking up on a different use or a different nuance that doesn't make sense with the rest of the uses that are being given.
Yeah, I think we've done this too. I'll have to do this in high school literature when we hit Shakespeare or Beowulf or Chaucer, so as you can see the original. Not that it's cleaned up, but
Yep. Along with that, and this is not in there either. So where we've gotten is we've gotten to our list. We've gone and rechecked BDAG, and if we still have some lingering questions or we want to do even further research, we can start with LSJ. And actually, really, we should start not so much with LSJ, but with the Septuagint. And so far as LSJ is concerned and the Septuagint, I'm not asking you to do these for Homer. This would be a massive, massive enterprise. But I did just give you what is called Hatch and Redpath. They are the Septuagint concordance. So if you look under Parrhesia there, you'll find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12 different uses of Parrhesia in the Septuagint. And you can explore those uses as well. In terms of our exploration, we've got LSJ, which brings us back into the classical period. LXX, and this is far more important than the LSJ because of the fact that biblical authors are often citing the Septuagint. They're often alluding to the Septuagint, or they're using vocabulary of the Septuagint. So that might be helpful in specific instances. And then BDAG describes NT period and beyond.
So, for instance, in the Septuagint for Parrhesia, 26:13, I broke the bars of your yoke and enabled you to walk with heads held high, or to go upright, or to walk erect, or made you walk erect. So is that what the confidence is?
I led you with confidence. I led you with, what does it say?
Erect, walking erect, is
Yeah.
your head held high.
Yeah, erect.
Okay.
With boldness, with, that leads into that particular idea.
Okay.
All right, so you have the Septuagint, you have all of that other information which you can discard if you want to, but just know that that's where it would be on your exploration of the word Parrhesia. Step 5.
And this is LSJ. Or what was LSJ?
LSJ was the
Oh,
one
Little
that...
Scott Jones. Okay.
Yep,
Lit
L. Scott and Jones. The other concordance there is Hatch and Redpath.
Hatch. Hatch and Redpath, man.
This is starting to get overwhelming for me, and I'm sure for you as well. So stick to these steps.
Okay.
Now what we have, if we want to do even more, is Lo and Nida. Your basic dictionary is arranged how?
Alphabetically?
Alphabetically, right? Lo and Nida is not. Lo and Nida is arranged semantically. So if you see there, letter N is under boldness and courage. So one of the words for boldness or courage in that semantic range would be thareo. Another would be lambano tharsos. Another would be Parrhesia. Parrhesiagzamai. And following. So
Pick a
those
word.
306 and 307.
Okay.
This helps us because of the fact that often we want to know if another word could have been used, or what other words, for instance, contribute to the idea of boldness in the New Testament, or boldness in the Old Testament. We can't define an entire concept on the basis of one word. Let's take dikaios, for instance, righteous, or dikaiosune, righteousness. Another word that might contribute to the New Testament's idea of righteousness would be agathos, for instance, right? He acted well, or he did good. He did good things. So that would contribute to the overall idea of what it means to act upright, or to act right in God's eyes.
Well, I don't want to derail you, but that was what came to my mind when to go look up that English translation of Leviticus 28 where it said walk upright. Almost everyone said walk upright. Did they look at that Greek word, compare it to the Hebrew word, and see what the Hebrew word is used, and then come to the conclusion this word leans more towards, because you could easily say walk with confidence and imply the same thought, yet could they go to the Hebrew to dial in the meaning?
To answer that question as succinctly as possible, what translation were you using?
Oh, I had the NASB, the King James, the NIV, and the Hebrew.
Those are all going to be using the Masoretic text to translate.
Okay.
In order to see how the English translates the Septuagint, you have to go to something like the New English translation of the Septuagint, or Brenton's Septuagint, which is a little bit dated.
Okay.
So they're translating a different text than you were looking at. All right, so we've got Lo and Nida. Take a look at that. See if that adds anything to the meaning. So what its purpose is it helps to clarify or refine the sense. It helps to clarify or refine the semantic domain that a word possesses, or is within, rather. And it may even, in instances, give you antonyms of that word. What is the opposite? These sorts of tools allow us to prevent from doing exegetical fallacies.
What do the numbers mean?
These numbers all pertain to, and I'll let you take a look at this if you want. This is what it's from. So 25 refers to the semantic domain 25. And I hesitated to even give you that one piece because you sort of need the whole tool in order to use it well. Semantic range 25 is attitudes or emotions. And then subcategory 125 is, or subcategory 25,
25.15.
sorry. 25 is attitudes or emotions, and those words that will fall within it, 156 until 166, are further but defined by courage or boldness.
Okay.
I'm already over my time. The last two things you need to do is to consult a theological word book. This is the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology, and the second one is Balls and Schneider. Yeah.
Attorney's over.
What these do is what you're doing. They've gone through the literature. You'll see on that first one, NIDNT, the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology. Look with me, page 734. At the bottom, it says openness, boldness, frankness. It has a CL next to the first paragraph. That means classical literature. And he goes through and he explains what this word meant in classical literature. How is he doing that? Well, he's used his lexicons, he's used his concordance. There isn't really one for classical literature. There's the Thesaurus Lingua Graeca, but you have to be a part of it. Anyway, he's done that. He's pulled the most significant words. He's explored them just like you're doing. He's gone to the Old Testament. If you look on the next page, it has OT on the left-hand side. He's used his concordance. He's talked about what the meaning of those words is in the Old Testament. And then on the next page, you see NT off to the side. It says it's occurred 31 times in the New Testament, 13 times in Johannine writings, 8 times in Paul, 5 in Acts, 4 in Hebrews, once in Mark. Gives you all those little statistics, and he goes and he does exactly what you're doing. Again, why do I do this? He's already done it for me. Because what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to come at these words that you're investigating with a clean slate. You don't want to read NIDNT first. You don't want to read Balzan Schneider first, because they're going to flavor the way that you look at the text. They're going to influence you. And it's good that they influence you, but what you want is you want to check those word books after you've done the work yourself. Ask yourself while you're reading those texts, do they have something that I missed? Do I have something that they've missed? And then select your meaning for the passage. All right, and that's lexical analysis.
This one that doesn't have any.
Look on the back page.
Okay.
There's my
All right.
mistake there. I thought it was the first page, and
Okay.
yeah. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thank you for putting up with me for almost a year now. And actually, I think it's been pretty close to a year. And I hope you will be back for the last 3 classes, I think it is, in January. What we'll do is continue finishing up the grammar, and we're going to try to add a little more of this sort of thing. We're going to talk about your results for Parrhesia. Trying to get you into the work that you want to actually be doing. And it's still a lot of work, but it's a different kind of work.